So now for the second C. The second C is about the word clean and whether we eat a clean diet. And I used to think I ate a relatively clean diet. And in food, it's like compared to what? And where we are on the continuum compared to what? And that's an important consideration when we're looking at a clean diet, because there's always another level. There's always an opportunity for improving that. There's always an opportunity to improve the choice we make when we go to a restaurant. So just to quickly go through, so foods that have low inflammatory response in the body. And one of the things you can do, and I learned, is you can actually test your blood and your immune system against foods that are considered inflammatory in your body. And if you click on the download to this particular program, you'll be able to look at the exact test that I had. And the test that was done for myself identified that I shouldn't have, or it's recommended that I don't have, Brazil nuts or buckwheat, which was, they were two products that I had continuously causing potentially chronic inflammation, which is not good for health and healing. The other is a vegan-centric, so that's a lot of plants and vegetables consumed as much as possible throughout the day. The third is organic-centric. Now, where I live, it's not that I have a massive organic store or farm shop near me, so I really have to work a little bit harder to get as much organic produce into the house as possible, particularly fresh produce. But what you'll learn through this program is that there's I'm probably like 90% organic. So there are some items that I just can't get, sort of coriander and herbs and spices and things like that. It's not easily accessible where I am on a consistent basis. So, trying to move towards an organic-centric lifestyle. The next is like raw versus cooked. And in a picture that you'll see on this is that you've got and I saw this photo of a piece of raw broccoli versus a piece of cooked broccoli, and it's called Kirlian photography. And what you'll notice is that the energetic life force of a piece of raw broccoli versus a piece of cooked broccoli is so much greater. And I was introduced to this way back in 2012, before cancer, when I was exposed to some of David Wolfe's work. And I saw that exact photo and I was like, wow, that makes sense to me. It just makes logical sense. Eat foods with a higher energetic life force value than the cooked versions. So I eat a very low percentage, low amount of cooked foods, and I eat a high amount of raw foods and living foods. Then you've got whole foods, so foods that have not been processed, foods in their whole form. So all the recipes that you'll see in this program and in the academy are all whole food based food groups. The next is low gluten versus no gluten, so I choose not to have any gluten now, or if I do, it's a very low gluten, or if we buy bread, it's with a lower gluten grain like spelt or something like that. But I rarely have it. If I do, it's a treat. So low or no gluten is best. And I guess when you go through the aisles and you see the free from aisle, or for those people that are considered celiac or are, then what you tend to find is that a lot of the products are still processed, and a lot of the products have had added sugar added to them to make them taste better. The next is the word sugar, and there's so much sugar in so much stuff that trying to avoid it is really difficult until you switch to a lifestyle like I'm living now, because there is sugar in absolutely everything. When you go to the petrol station, there's sugar just put out in front of before our eyes. So when we're feeling tired or vulnerable on a long car journey, what we're going to do, pick up a piece of chocolate or a packet of biscuits or something like that. So that has been the hardest transition for me, is removing sugar from my diet completely. And occasionally there are still some times when I get it, and I notice that addiction to the actual refined sugar. So trying to go towards a low or no sugar diet and get your carbs or get your complex carbs and your sugars from other foods, not refined sugars, processed sugars. So the next is fruit. And For an anti-cancer diet, I've moved towards a no or very low fruit. And if I do have fruit, it might be a few berries. Now, if you go by what Chris Walk goes by, he includes a lot, he says that fruits is okay to eat. Because of the way I've been educated over these last few years, my approach is still a very low sugar or no sugar diet. And that's my personal preference, and you have to do what's best for you. And obviously, if you're healthy, integrating fruit into your diet is absolutely fine. I've heard Brian Clements from Hippocrates say that 15% fruit in a week is good, and on the combining module you'll learn that that eating fruit is best eaten alone and not combined with any other foods. So that's another consideration. So low or no fruit. So adults can go up to 15% of their total consumption as fruit, and then children up to 40%. And the next is I don't have any nuts, peanuts or cashew nuts because of the potential aflatoxins that's in them. And when you switch to a more raw lifestyle, most recipes that I've seen have got cashew nuts or peanuts included in them. So trying to substitute those with things like macadamia or pine nuts, that's also is straightforward and easy to do that. So you're not restricted in any which way at all. So the next is caffeine. I don't have any caffeine whatsoever. So that's just my personal choice. And there's a lot of people that drink a lot of coffee, and it's down to the individual at the end of the day. But for me, I feel that coffee is more of a take away from than an add to. Now, there might be certain parts of coffee that is good for us, but at some other level, it's not so good for us. So I've chosen to remove, even with green tea and everything, I just removed caffeine from my diet, and that's what the Hippocrates lifestyle recommends as well. So the final piece of the jigsaw is alcohol. I used to love a glass of wine. I used to love a glass of champagne. I used to love going out and getting drunk on the very rare occasion. But now, I couldn't even imagine my life before, life without alcohol. I can't even imagine now life with alcohol. I choose to feel so much better by not having any alcohol whatsoever. And on occasion, sort of 2 years later, I've tried a glass of wine or a taste of wine or a small glass of champagne. But it doesn't do it for me anymore because I've been so clean for so long. It doesn't do it for me anymore. But again, so no caffeine, no alcohol or low alcohol.